Birds of paradise. Where's he going?
I didn't. I was just looking at it go. Can you slide down a little bit? What's the other one that you think will go to ask where she is? Look, Mom.
Oh, I wonder who's going to be next.
Dance safari thing so far. Alright, amazing to hear. Well, thank you so much for joining us here today, and we hope you're excited to meet some amazing birds from around the world. Now, there are roughly 50 billion wild birds on our planet. That's about 6 birds for every 1 human on Earth. Now, with over 10,000 species of birds found all over the world, they are one of the most diverse and well-studied groups of animals, which means that they play a very important role as indicators of our planet's health. Shifts in their population can help to indicate if a habitat is under stress and where conservation efforts are needed most. Now, we have a lot of birds to introduce you to today. Some may be more familiar than others, but it really all depends on where you're from, where you've been, or perhaps where you currently live in the world as well.
Whoa.
Now, found wandering the grasslands of Africa are helmeted guinea fowl. This is Trixie and Pixie.
Where are they going?
And next up, we got the national bird of India himself. This here is Parker, our Indian peafowl, or more commonly known as the peacock, since he is a male of his species. Now, you can tell he's male because of that bright blue coloration to his head and his neck, as well as those elaborate train feathers.
Look at it. So beautiful.
Now, this next guest is from right here in North America. I'm hoping you'll recognize her. Her name is Spud, and she's going to be rounding that back corner in just a second. And once you see her, I want you to shout out nice and loud if you know what kind of bird she is.
Turkey!
Turkey!
Turkey, of course. Now, why include a turkey in our presentation today? Well, she brings with her a very important message of conservation. Now, show of hands who here in the audience has seen a wild turkey in Ontario before.
No.
All right,
Yep.
quite a few hands. Well, clearly it's not uncommon to see turkeys in Ontario, but that was not always the case. Back in the early 1900s, turkeys were hunted to the point of extirpation, meaning they were no longer found living in the wilds of Ontario. However, this changed in the 1980s when a conservation project was initiated, which released over 4,000 turkeys across different sites of our province. Now, this project was so successful that all of these decades later, and currently we have an estimated 100,000 turkeys living just here in our province alone. It just goes to show the positive impact that conservation can have on a population or even an entire species. Now, I'd say that Spud here has done an excellent job spreading that message of conservation. She's gonna head on home. Why don't we all say bye, Spud?
Bye, Spud. Wave at him, Till.
Finishing those last few bites, of course. What do you think? Ready to head on home? All right, maybe a dip in the pond. We're gonna move on though. Now, on that note of conservation, one group of birds that definitely needs our special attention is parrots. Unfortunately, they are one of the most threatened groups of birds in the world, with about 30% considered vulnerable, endangered, or critically endangered, and about half of the 370 plus species facing population declines. Now, parrots are characterized by their mostly bright colors, charismatic personalities, and of course their ability to mimic human speech, making them an especially fascinating group of birds. Now, joining us for our first example of a parrot species is Reggie, our Timney parrot.
Now, unfortunately, Reggie isn't part of that 30%, as Timney parrots are critically endangered. But despite that, he's very excited to be here as an ambassador for his species today. Now, aren't you, Reggie? He certainly is. Now, his species might not be the largest or the most colorful parrot species out there, but it certainly is the most intelligent, as Timney parrots are known to have an intelligence of a 3 to 5-year-old child, and one Timney parrot has been recorded to have learned up to 1,500 words. Now, Reggie, wouldn't you think that your species is definitely the most intelligent? Absolutely, he does agree with that. Now, Reggie here is quite far off from knowing 1,500 words himself, but one word that he certainly does know quite well is...
Bye.
A very sarcastic goodbye from Reggie. Well, he's done a lovely job for us here today, so let's show him some love.
Thanks, Reggie.
So now, as we say goodbye to Reggie, I'd like to introduce you to some of the more iconic members of the parrot world, our macaws.
Oh.
Now, there are currently 17 recognized species of macaws here on our planet, and today we have two of them joining us out here today. On your left, you're going to find a scarlet macaw, and her name is Fever. And on the right over here, you are going to find a blue-throated macaw, Benny.
Hi,
And
Benny.
these two are going to come up nice and close, and they're going to show you some of the key features that make parrots unique. So one of the first things that you might notice about them is their bright, bold, and beautiful colors. Now, these colors may stand out to us quite a bit here in Canada. However, it actually helps them blend in very well to the red and yellow fruits, the green leaves, and the bluish shadows of the rainforest that they call home. Next up, I want you to take a look at their feet. Parrots have what are called zygodactyl toes, which is just a fancy way to say that they have 2 toes facing forwards and 2 toes facing backwards. It allows them to have a very strong grasp on any branches and perches that they might be standing on, and it also allows them to use their feet much like we use our hands, especially while eating. Now, speaking of eating, take a look at that impressively large hooked beak on the front of their face. This beak is so strong and can exert over 700 pounds of pressure in their bites. Now, they often like to use it much like a third foot, making them quite acrobatic by nature. Now, as you can see, this beak would definitely come in handy while swinging through the dense canopies of the rainforest. And to see one of these birds in flight is quite a beautiful sight. Those large wings of theirs help them to fly about 50 to 60 kilometers per hour through their homes, which is just as fast as we drive through our cities and towns. And of course, when they're flying, they need a means to steer. So that's where that great long tail in the back comes in hand. It helps them to steer through the air by counteracting the winds. And when they're ready to land, they will fan it out for the brakes in a nice, safe landing. Now, I'd say that Fever and Benny have done a lovely job showing us what it's like to be a parrot. Let's give it for them. So now that we've had a little bit of fun with our birds, I'd like to talk about something a little bit more serious, and that is our blue-throated macaw recovery program. Now, unfortunately, there are less than 400 blue-throated macaws left in the wild today, and they can actually only be found in the country of Bolivia. And so it's safe to say that they aren't doing all that well for themselves. And so we teamed up with the World Parrot Trust and established a breeding site right here at Safari.